The success of the early human civilizations was their skill in survival. They were able to survive because they created new tools made of stones and wood. They struggled because they constantly had to move to keep up with their food. What the early humans left behind was an agricultural revolution that allowed them to make a home and grow crops instead of moving for their food. Mesopotamia in ancient Egypt was a vast kingdom that controlled all over the eastern Mediterranean region. The Egyptian success came from opening trade routes on the Nile and conquering surrounding civilizations. While they succeeded in agricultural, architecture, and religion, the governments of Egypt and Mesopotamia were not something to marvel at. They had many tyrants and very strict rulers. One of their biggest struggles was Hammurabi's Code. It was a collection of 282 very strict laws with terrible punishments. Through all this, the legacy of Egypt and Mesopotamia lives on through their technological advances in engineering tombs and dams. Many of their great structures are still standing today. Ancient India was a powerful civilization that started their reign in 1500 BC. Ancient India was a civilization greatly influenced by religion, and with the creation of Buddhism and Hinduism, the world was forever changed. India's greatest success was the founding of Buddhism. Buddhism was a religion that did not have levels of authority and anyone could join. This was great because it ignored the caste system in a way. No one was characterized and put at the bottom or the top of their community. Without Buddhism, the caste system was a very big part of India and still is. Their struggle was the lowest class of the caste system, the untouchables. The untouchables were only allowed to do certain jobs even if they were better at something else. This really put India's economy at a disadvantage. The legacy of ancient India was the caste system. It still holds on today despite the horrible ways the untouchables are treated. Ancient China was a massive civilization that started in 3000 BCE and saw its fall 3,500 years later in 500 AD. China was very successful in their economy and they created the written language. They also were successful and created a 25,000-mile-long postal network, massive road system, and they wrote nearly 50,000 poems that still exist today. Despite all this success, China did have its downfalls. The Han Dynasty in 206 BC put China into a massive civil war. China's legacy lives on through the Great Wall of China, which was first built in late BC. It still stands today after about 1,800 years. The ancient Greek civilization was a large civilization made up of dozens of isolated independent states that were formed in 1600 BC. The success of the Greeks came through an Athenian called Cleisthenes. Cleisthenes founded democracy in Greece and created a stable government. The struggles to Greece came in something they called the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages were around 900 BC, and there were many internal struggles in Greece. Earthquakes, food production dropped, and many left the Greece mainland and moved to islands. Legacy of Greece is held in the writings of Homer. The Iliad and the Odyssey are two books still being read today. Rome was arguably one of the strongest empires of all time. They had a very organized government that consisted of the 12 tables, a group of people that wrote the laws. Somehow, behind their well-organized government, Rome had a large history of having crazy rulers. Their most famous crazy ruler was Julius Caesar, who attempted to gain military control of Rome. Islam is still a very popular religion in the Middle East today, but it has a lot of history behind it. Islam was originally founded by the Prophet Muhammad. Their beliefs are mostly the same as Christianity. Their religious book is called the Quran, and the way it was written. It was very helpful towards women. One of the main struggles that Muslims tend to have is the extremists of their religion that tend to give Islam a bad stereotype around the world. Because of this, many people think that Islam is a violence-based religion when it is not the case. Luckily for Muslims, they still uphold the Quran today, which has many statements about how their religion is peaceful and opposes those bad stereotypes. One of the greatest civilizations of South America would be the Inca. They were known for using their 25,000-mile road system that they created. This was very important to them because they were able to relay information across a large distance very quickly, which helped their civilization. The Incas did not last long, mostly because they were primitive for the time, if you compare them to the advanced Spanish soldiers that came in and wiped them out. Despite being knocked out by the Spanish, the Incas were still known today for their secret city called Machu Picchu, which was built high in the mountains. The Mongols were probably the most vicious of ancient civilizations. They were swift in taking control of lots of surrounding lands and taking over civilizations like the Persians. Because of this, they were deeply feared. Unfortunately for the Mongols, they had no way of standing out in the civilizations they conquered, which may have been a factor in their downfall. One thing they are still known for in the millions of descendants of Genghis Khan that live on today. This is because of the many people he raped during his reign.